I am at an unknown place, at an unknown time, as if staying in the air, beset by an all-too-human fear that consciousness, this idea of consciousness, that consciousness, our promethean conquest, may in the end not be able to serve us as well as nature. The more successful we become in science and technology, the more diabolical are the uses to which we put our inventions and discoveries, and our intuitions get pushed away. Rationality has been won at the expense of our vitality. That's the claim, that our pleasures have been domesticated. Our instrumentality will rule our vitality. And this illusion of we, becomes another mechanic phylum spliced into another assemblage. Humanity, but one layer of a forgotten strata. I was walking with Akhenaten back at the Giza pyramid complex. We were taking a day trip there. He now appears more sickly, ranting, scorning Egypt's traditional pantheism. He had already decreed that his religion, the religion of Aten, would be Egypt's creed, offending the all-powerful priest and inviting civil dissension and foreign invasion. He had been more religious visions, and so, not sleeping, and his fervor and devotion to the one and only God had taken possession of him. We were on the backside of the pyramid, away from the Nile, and Akhenaten's attendants walk in with umbrellas. There is a dwarf-like man wearing a mask. It's the god Bes, Aha, protector of the pharaoh, the ancient Egyptian dwarf god, a deity and a demonic fighter. He was a god of war, also a patron of childbirth and the home, associated with sexuality, humor, music, and dancing. Though he was no longer a god to Akhenaten, Akhenaten just liked him. Still superstitious, yes, like the many amulets he was wearing, he wanted protection against malicious spirits. Now, and on the backside, is this diamond-shaped shadow cast on the ground, and beyond the long shadow of the figure in platforms who purportedly brought us the idea of one God. Mind you, not God is eminence, but God is creator. As the sundial moves, the silhouette appears smaller. The little silhouette of a man, yes, Akhenaten, the queen, king, the boy blinded, mesmerized, the spoiled child, man, God, the sun directly shining on him, his image in the mirror world. The red queen on the other side tells me, you would not seek me if you had not found me. We enter into the mirror, entering a different kind of form, of thinking, a different kind of mental phase space, where we escape all human limits. All logic and common sense will only interfere, he says. But once these barriers are broken, we will enter the realms of childhood visions and dreams. With my ocular lodestar, I am inside Mirror World. A letter of introduction, a passkey, drops me vertiginously into the court of Akhenaten. It is lush and verdant, and the sounds of the animal menagerie so symphonically outrageous. In the distance, I could see him in a mirror world, like the film Last Year in Marienbad, with enigmatic narrative structure, in which time and space are fluid, with no certainty over what is happening to the characters, what they are remembering, and what they are imagining. He wore a long red robe with flared, draping sleeves, was surrounded by 6 men in long black robes and skull caps. These were the high priest of Amun, who bitterly rued the Mad King. I noticed his chief of security, Haramhab, who, not unlike the many coups of 20th century Egypt, would eventually take him down. I seemed to be familiar to Akhenaten. He noticed me as I noticed him. wearing jewel-encrusted, high-platform red shoes. He saw me so delighted, we connected. But wait a minute, were these the red shoes for that other king? Louis XIV, some 3,000 years later, in the 18th century AD, the other sun worshipper who also believed kings were divinely chosen? Louis XIV, unknowing of Akhenaten, had also adopted the sun as his emblem, since for him the peoples and territories of France revolved around him, as the planets revolved around the sun. Remember, just 2 generations later, Louis XVI would be the last king of France, executed for treason by guillotine in 1793. And in the last year of that century, 1799, Napoleon was sent by the Directory to Egypt. The French, wanting to occupy Napoleon's time, proclaimed the conquest the beginning of the French's Middle East colonization in the name of defending French trade interest. In addition to soldiers and sailors, Napoleon brought along 150 savants, his priests, scientists, engineers, and scholars, whose responsibility was to capture not Egyptian soil, but Egyptian culture and history. And while the military invasion was a failure, the scholarly one was successful beyond anyone's expectations. It was something like this I was telling Akhenaten, and so he thought I had come fully equipped with spells, the man who fell to earth, a magus, a magician, and a juggler, spinning in the air like small silver balls, letting them fall in patterns that seem random to others, but to him were in fact quite precise. So soon began my friendship with the kingly one himself. Aki and I decided to have a bite and stepped out to go to the studio cafeteria. It was a cool, crisp fall day. The sunlight was brilliant. As we walked along the back lots, we noticed a hangar that was open. We could see in the distance a giant pyramid, just like the one we saw in Giza. We soon found out they were shooting a film on Rudolf Steiner. Milling about were a group of dancers and musicians. Just as the early then Prussian, then German nationalists wanted to find a connection to ancient Greece to give their new nation an origin story, so did the Theosophist in going back to the Hermetic wisdom of the ancient Egyptians. And a key figure in this was Rudolf Steiner. Aki and I walked over, and soon we were all drinking beer, this hoppy beer, and Aki seemed mesmerized by the sun. All of us did, really. One of the musicians started with the lute, which sounded a bit like a guitar, but crisper and bright. Thinking about the guitar and its pear-shaped body, I could see how wide Aki's hips were. In the light, he looked so beautiful. Soon the drums, flutes, cymbals, clappers, and tambourines were sounding, and each of us dancing in each other's arms, looking on at the sky, feeling the rays of the sun, seeming so glorious. Akhenaten seemed almost in a trance. I noticed the dancer with tambourine, with her long, luxurious neck. The zills of the tambourine, the small metal jingles set into its rim, were cascading with reflective sunlight, kaleidoscopically shooting, projecting this patterning of color, reflecting off Akhenaten, his earrings glowing, sparkling, and his vestments rapidly changing. The dancer moved closer to him, between the sun and her and him. It was as if the whole world turned with them in a trance. And now I saw her oval eyes, her joy. She was Nefertiti. and the two of them entwined in this celebratory dance, the blue sky radiant, as was her mascara, and his burst into flame. The afternoon came, and so did the high priests from Almun's studios. They were the financiers of the picture, of the studio. All the temples were in their charge, all the gods, the stars of the screen, all the smaller temples, all up and down Lower Egypt. They wanted to hear our new scenario for the funereal festival. Akhenaten, very poised and focused, stood up facing the priest in their suits and vestments. Akhi expressed, the reality of the spiritual dimension is shifting, both in its existential and metaphysical traits, and this shift requires we turn our attention to the sun itself. The sun, the source of it all, and extend with this our comprehension of the world to its universal constants, and in this change our philosophical and worldview paradigm, from the old gods to the one and only God itself, the sun, the source of everything. There was a stunning silence in the room. Akhi sat poised, looking straight on to the highest of the high priest. And as you know, it is my right to appoint the highest priest, he said. And so he turned past the actor playing Rudolf Steiner to me. Me. Yes, me. Can you believe it, that this humble narrator would become the high priest of the Pharaoh's court? I would be the one to tell the whole of Egypt, Aten was the one. Akhi and I are sitting on the astroturf. He tells me about Nefertiti. She wants to bite me all the time, he says. We listen to great music, take drugs together, run away from the priest. The priests, they're filthy capitalists. I know they don't know what a capitalist or a fascist is yet, but they are. That's what these priests, he says, are. We dream together. We're like two persons, Nefertiti and me, two persons in one. It's hard sometimes when you see the future, she tells me. I know this won't last.